I was surfing online and I came across this quote, and it literally shifted my mindset. It said, "Throw me to the wolves, and I'll return leading the pack." Come on. Throw me to the wolves, and I'll return leading the pack. This one is for my pack leaders, not the ones that just want to follow the trends or settle for the status quo. This is for the trendsetter in you. People that have realized that there's a niche market that they were born to dominate. Yes, you might have been thrown to the wolves. You might have had some setbacks. You might have had people misjudge you, and you might have misunderstood yourself at times. But it's time to lead. It's time to lead. Come on. Stop questioning the power of what you've learned. You've been prepared for this moment. It's time to go to the next level. It's time to transform what we've been doing. You can't lead the pack if you haven't had yourself tested, if you haven't been fortified, if you haven't been through the fire and learned how to dance in the darkness of the night. When you doubted yourself, but you had to keep pushing, even when the ones that believed in you started to look at you funny. But you weren't laughing, because at the end of the day, you know about the Harvard effect. It's time to change your cause. It's time to implement a new system, and we're here to tell you about it. So I was on this flight. Actually, I'm not ashamed to tell you I was on Southwest, so I really wasn't in first class. I was in the back of the plane. I think I had a C number. And I went online, got on the internet, and I checked my email on the plane, and I got a request to speak at Harvard University. Oh, excuse me, at the Harvard University. So immediately I felt like I was in first class. As a matter of fact, I felt like I was the co-pilot, like I had the navigation system, because all of the work that I've been putting in the industry for over 21 years in personal improvement, learning, studying, moving, pushing, I realized that when you answer the call, you'll get the call. And that was an important call for me. And so I responded, and next thing you know, I was scheduled to speak at Harvard University. But then the question came up, how can I take it up a notch? How can I give the best presentation of my life? What type of research do I have to do? What things do I have to read? How many people do I have to interview in order to make sure that I truly connect and make sure that my voice doesn't just touch their ears, but connects with their spirits? For weeks, I researched, I asked questions, I learned and looked at and synthesized everything that I've learned to make sure that I gave it my best. And the day before the presentation, I realized that it would be important for not only just those who go to Harvard to learn how to utilize the Harvard effect. And it was such an incredible experience. This message does not just belong at Harvard University. This belongs to you. So welcome to the Harvard Effect. Whether I realized it or not, I became part of her dynasty. And that's the only reason why I have the privilege and the honor of standing before you today. And Dean Lambert, you and I had some similar ideas. I started thinking, what would the world look like if everyone grew up with access to a Harvard education? Just think about that. How many more Nobel Peace Prize winners would we have? How many more world-class leaders would there be right now if everyone grew up with a Harvard education? Could you imagine that? Well, let's talk about what that really means. I remember this story that I learned from my dad, that I heard from my dad. It wasn't something that he said on stage. It was something that he said behind the scenes. And this probably was one of the biggest lessons. He said, John Leslie, I just came back from working with the Gates family. And after I spoke, they said, hey, Mr. Brown, we heard you talking about your 5- and 10-year goals, but we want to show you something. They took him into a back private room, and they said, look at this. We want to show you where the Gates family will be in the area of technology 100 years from now. Think about that. We want to show you where the family will be 100 years from now. And so my dad told me that, and he said, wow. When he said, wow, guess what I was thinking? How? I then immediately started thinking, where will the Brown family be in the personal growth industry 100 years from now? And I started working for that plan. And so you see that worksheet that you have right there? Pull that out. To me, the H in Harvard stands for 100-year plan. If you want to be successful, I'm telling you, you need a 100-year plan. Major corporations, some of them live only for a season, but the ones that live for over 100 years, the ones that are here for generation after generation, guess what they have? A 100-year plan. It's okay, say it with me. A 100-year plan. And why is that? They said the purpose of a 100-year plan is not to create a fixed result for the next 100 years. The purpose of a 100-year plan is to get management and ownership outside of the thinking of quarterly results and focus on the overall well-being of the company. You see, when you set goals and when you're thinking about your success, there will be things that happen to you and you ask yourself, why me? Why does this have to happen to me? Don't you know I'm working on being successful? And you might lose your footing, but your 100-year plan is not about what you're going to get while you're alive. Your 100-year plan is all about how will the world be different because you were born.
Where will we be 100 years from now? Can we improve if I show that?